Hi everyone, I'm glad that you still watch my video lessons. I'm a professional teacher of drawing and painting. My name is Gianluca Rotelli and this is my masterclass. We are at the third episode. I don't want to get lost in chat and I start straight away to draw the petals of yellow rose. And instead to use dark brown colors, I utilize the principal paint of the shadow. And in this case, it's burnt sienna plus Windsor yellow, cadmium red light, and gray. And with a mineral spirit like a sunset door, with 01 brush, I draw the structure of the rose from the center to outside. With another clean brush, I may shape the lines. It is like having one eraser in one hand and a pencil in another. After this stage, I may paint inside of the drawing with a Windsor yellow and I apply my brush strokes vertically because I can imagine that petals are like a vertical wall. After I blur a bit all petals with each other. My dilemma when I do the details is how can I put the features without to be too descriptive. So if I do not add informations, the rose doesn't look realistic, but if I put too much details, it will look too graphic. How do I get around this issue? I take one step back from the painting and I watch it. Basically, if the first impression is right, it means the painting is good. If it's not, I must blend the contour of the petals in order to lose all sharp edges. Why is it an excellent idea paint the same object twice like I'm doing now? Essentially, it is because I have to doubt always at the first painting session. In fact, during the workflow, by the time I can be tired or exhausted, and my critical judgment can become less objective in two directions, negative or positive. It is a great idea to leave your painting by itself. Take a distance and turn the painting at the wall. If you do it, you may detach your mind from the thoughts of the picture. I noticed two different types of behavior. Some students are too happy at the end of the work, and others are very depressed. What I suggest you should suspend any judgment until a new day of painting, a new day of work. Another reason why I want to repaint again the pot is because I want to improve the contrast of the item, and I may spend more attention in figuring out the green and brown color of the shadow. The last one is because I want to get the effect that the pot is more in focus respect the flowers, because it is prospectively forward. Okay, great. Now I must paint a local color. Local color means middle tone. To begin with, I attempt to mix well local colors, and instead of blending suddenly, I try to find quickly middle tone between light and shadow. Furthermore, I paint a strip of local color around the dark area, because I may figure out exactly where form is rendering around the surface of the pot. I bring the band's middle tone downward across the pot, and I paint both sides. I also add a bit of gray to manipulate the temperature of the color. Okay, I do another strip of paint close to the side of the pot. Obviously, it is a bit brighter than local paint. Over time, I have few difference from one strip to another, and now I try to blend all transitions of colors. Just 1 second, I want to remind you that I had at my palette cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow is not my favorite yellow, but I think it's perfect to determine the chrome of the pot. I still paint inside of the shadow because I want to have the impression that the dark area is blurry. Okay, let me tell you this short story. I saw a few advanced students to use many brushes to blend the transitions. And if there is not enough paste of colors in your paint, it can lose the sense of bright. For this reason, blending technique should be done after the Mosaic Method. And one of my students, after all day of paint, asked to me, "Luca, why my portrait looks like a doll?" Even though blending technique looks fast, at the end the painting will appear without consistency and body of the paint if I don't apply a Mosaic method. In conclusion, I said to my student, Instead of rush, it is an excellent idea. Subdivide the workflow in 4 or 5 stages. The discipline is important to improve the painting technique. But what does it mean, discipline? Discipline means respecting the invisible rules of art: drawing, proportion, mosaic, and blending technique. If I try cut the corner and jump directly at the last stage, I will never get the point that I would like to looking for. Okay, listen to me. Ask at yourself, is it better to do many paintings wrong or to paint just one really well? If you find an answer at this question, 50% of your path is done. If I have to change the outline of the pot, I again prepare the paint of the background and blend it into the pot's color. In this passage, I may do 2 things together to shape the contour and blur the pot into the background. I do everything with one brush because I consider that I may do 2 things instead of one by one. I don't need another dry brush to blend. The amount of paint is enough and correct. I know it looks obvious, but it isn't. In fact, I have to paint some picture area with different brushes, and others I may do with one. I'm repainting the top of the pot and I attempt to get more contrast in the color of the shadow. As you may see, the contour of the dark patch of paint has almost the same color as the bottom of the vase. The sharp outline disappears in the local color, and these things happen because I use really gentle and thin brush strokes and I blend all the contour. I continue to add more yellow lake and lead white, yellow ochre, phthalo green from Rembrandt, sap green, and as you may see, the hue becomes too intense and green. So let me add some gray color and ochre to calm down the saturation of the paint. After that, I may paint the shape of the light around the highlight. Maybe some of you know how to use Photoshop. This software has one similar function that allows the spread of light in concentric circles that expand outwards from the center. Technically, I move my brush from the right colors towards the middle tones. Therefore, all paint marks have been disappeared. This effect doesn't happen accidentally. Until I haven't decided to repeat in my mind, I must remove all marks of my brushes over the canvas. I may guarantee you will never have a smooth paint film. If you have some questions about technique or drawing, for example, don't be shy, send me a private message. You are my Patreon and I will be happy to reply you as soon as possible. Okay? Go, we can go forward. Okay, let me try to do something really cool. I use a cadmium yellow, a bit of white and sap green, and I attempt to lay down one huge brushstroke on the right side of the pot. I don't know if it will work correctly, but so when you are a painter, you have to challenge yourself. You have to try. You have to experiment. Sometimes you can be lucky, sometimes you can be unlucky. In this case, I think it works. I think it works. And I'm traveling downward and I paint straight brushstroke from the top to the bottom in just one stroke. And I may redraw the outline gently. Let me remind you that this painting is made from life. So I have my composition on the left side of my easel, and the picture that I show you represents one fragment of the nature. Okay, I did this painting in the morning, and because my windows is not north but I think southwest, the light permanently changes, and in one way it's not good, in another way it forces me to think artistically. What I'm trying to say, every moment is different. That's why for me to do a still life is an interpretation of the subject. Okay, I don't paint exactly the reality, because reality doesn't exist. It's just an idea, and everybody has a different concept. I paint just my personal view of the subject, and I do one synthesis of it. This workflow stage is interesting because I continue to work in the dark transition from green paint to gray color. You may observe that the tone of the dark is the same, but the temperature is different. On the left side of the palette, I have many tones of gray and I can choose what I need. Following the point where I am, to paint the sides of the pot, like I'm doing now, I add more gray light because I want to distinguish it to the core shadow that is in the middle of the object. Also, I can add a bit of alizarin red to emphasize the reddish tone on the lower part of the item. I blend the gray into the green and I mix a bit of alizarin red and yellow ochre to get the last part more warm. Finally, I have this sequence of tones: warm, cold, and again warm and cold. If you also consider the shadow of the ground that I will show you in a few steps. I continue with raw umber, sap green and grey, and I paint cast shadow that the pot projects on the floor. Too often we care about how the painter mixes the colors, but we never ask ourselves the deep thoughts that govern the creative path. Okay, let me go ahead. It is essential to pay attention to the pavement. It has its perspective, and for this reason I ask myself how I should apply my brushstroke to explain the direction of the ground. Perspective is an illusion caused by the retina of the human's eye, and the one works like a lens that allows us to understand the world in a perspective view. But before artists like Brunelleschi, Piero della Francesca, Paolo Uccello, the world of art didn't care about it. After them, perspective became one of the powerful artist's instruments to understand the world around us. And even though if in my still life there are not lines in the direction of the vanishing point, I must keep in my thoughts this profound idea, and I attempt to transfer it on my flat and diagonal brushstrokes. Have you wondered why most modern art has eliminated the concept of perspective? I can tell you my opinion about it. For our brain, it is much easier to understand two dimensions, height and width, but not the depth. To understand the depth, we imagine it with perspective, and our brain has to make an extra effort to understand it. For this reason, many artists are unable to think of it and prefer to express themselves on flat canvas in two dimensions. I don't want to say that one is better than another, but we often forget the difficulty that the painter has to do to create the illusion of perspective. So, in other words, you should be proud about it if you are able to create the effect of the depth, okay? And also, you should remind it when someone tries to dismiss a classical style. Before the end of the session, I want to give you the last suggestions. It is crucial to ask yourself what I'm doing consciously in the form of a third-person question. To be more clear, I should talk to myself. In this way, Gianluca, instead of think too much, you should paint. Or Gianluca, before taking an action, think about if is it the best choice or not. Maybe Gianluca should paint middle tones or half tones or move one part of the drawing instead of another. Another significant issue is not to spend enough time mixing colors, especially if I'm impatient or I have already mixed a portion of pastes of colors and I want to do something because I heard this silly voice in my mind telling me, oh, you spend a lot of time preparing it, now you must use it. Please, it is really wrong. Don't do it. Don't think like that. Okay, now I continue to paint the yellow rose and I restart to draw, but I will show you all this part of the work at the next episode. Thank you for watching my video and we'll stay in touch, my friend. Bye.